My lords, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to episode 16 of the Deluxe DLC Transport Fever 2 series here in the American Southwest. In the last episode, number 15, we started the steel production here at the Carrollton Forge, and that steel is now being shipped over to the West Jordan Machinery Factory. At the moment we're producing about 70 to 80 units of steel per train load, so we need to get that steel production ramped up, but for the time being it's doing okay. We have some production, it's better than nothing. Once we get the planks being brought in to the West Jordan Machinery Factory and those machines being taken out, then we should see a fast production on the steel here at the Carrollton Forge. But at least we know that the infrastructure is there ready and waiting and in place when such a time does arise. So with a view to getting all that done as soon as possible, we are going to start getting the planks brought into the West Jordan Machinery Factory today, which does mean of course we need to get those planks being produced. At the end of the episode I did mention the potential options available to us for getting planks down into West Jordan, and we're going to follow through with that today. So we're going to get those planks produced up by, I believe it was somewhere towards Athens, and then get a line brought into West Jordan so those planks can be consumed and turned into machines. It remains to be seen whether we get those machines shipped out in today's episode, but if nothing else we should at least get the planks being brought in anyway. So let's bring up the UI. So the date is running, we're in 1906 now, January the 20th. Looking very good in terms of account and cash flow, so cash on hand is very strong and we're making a decent amount of money as well. Let's just zoom on out so we can have a look at what we were talking about there. So here's the lumber to the sawmill chain that we discussed previously. They're close enough to be able to get away with some road vehicles handling the transportation of the logs, I think, but to get the planks down there, all the way down here, we are going to have to get them brought down on some rails. So I think the plan was to come down this way and then connect into here, and if you remember we did discuss the possibility of triple or quadruple tracking some of this stretch down here so we don't overburden the lines and cause things to start having to wait around for clearance to get on to their destination, wherever it is that may be. So if we're going to do that, to get the ball rolling, we want to get a much more direct road connection between here and here. In fact, I don't think there is a valid road connection at the moment. I suppose they could come all the way around here, down here. Could they get there? They could not. So yeah, we're gonna have to give them, well, even if they could, we wouldn't go for that option, so let's give them something a little bit more direct, shall we? And we will use these higher capacity roads for this. And to start with, we'll just upgrade the road size by the forest, and then build a road that heads out this direction along the edge of this river here, and this way our trucks have a nice direct route. Makes it a lot more efficient and we'll get there a lot quicker. Well, we'll get there anyway, because I don't think we could have got there with the existing road network. So again, we'll just upgrade that little stretch right there, connect it in, and there we go, nice and simple. So over here we're going to want a truck station, just the one platform. We'll make it 30 meters, and we'll go ahead and place this truck station just here. They are going to have to cross over. In fact, no, they're not. They're going to be fine. I got confused there. I thought they would have to cross over the road to get into this, but they won't have to do that. So let's set this down just there. Go into the configuration screen and we'll do a one-way in and out on this to save having to mess about with waypoints to guide the trucks in and out correctly. This way they only have one option. Bring it in. Quickly just rename this to the Athens Forest. And then what we want over here at the sawmill is a drop-off point. We don't need another station down here because eventually we're going to build a train station for the outgoing planks. So for the road vehicles, all it's going to take is an unload point right outside the sawmill itself. What we'll also do is just give them a little loop road like this with a waypoint so they can drop off and then turn around using this loop road before heading back. Just stops them having to turn around and U-turn in the middle of the road. Just smooth some of this out just here. There we go, nice and simple. Right, last thing we'll need to get this up and running properly is a nearby road depot. So that may as well go just by the forest, and we'll put it on that junction just there. Brilliant. So now let's get this line set up. So we're going from the Athens Forest. These we want to wait for a full load, and it shouldn't take them long to get that full load, so we don't mind them waiting as long as it takes. They're only bringing logs and they're coming all the way down here. Let's just change the colour to a more suitable colour. They've already decided to take the loop road without having to use the waypoint, so that's great. And that's basically all there is to it. Nice and simple, nothing too complicated there. So this is going to be logs, not longs, just logs. And this is Athens to Peoria. I believe that's correct. It might not be. We can always change it later if I haven't spelt that correctly. So buy some vehicles. We'll use the flatbed steam trucks for this. As we can see, they do handle logs. And what do we want to say? Ballpark, let's go 30. 1.5 million, we can always adjust to suit. And out they come. So we'll start seeing the logs here, as we can see already. That's great. Let's just check that we did spell Peoria correctly. It looks like we did. Oh no, not quite. Close, but not quite. So just swap that around like that. There we go. Everything's all correct. Wonderful. So they'll start taking this down in the next few moments. It's going to take them a while to make their first delivery because it is a fair old distance. Not in the grand scheme of things for this map, it's not too far away. But when you get down to ground level, you can see they actually are having to travel a pretty decent distance there. But of course, once we as we get later into the eras, and we're getting the modern trucks are going to handle this no problem. And I think for the time being, what we can just do is just overcompensate by having a lot of delivery trucks, so we have that constant steady supply of logs down here, and we don't have to wait too long, and the frequency between deliveries isn't too high. But for now, while they're all getting themselves sorted and settled, we can go ahead and put our cargo station at the Peoria sawmill. And in terms of the direction, since we said we want to come down this way, it would make sense if we had our station. And in fact, shall we go for a terminus station here, because we can get it right up against the road, and it leaves us pointing in the correct direction more or less. So if we were to do something like that, just rename that to the Peoria sawmill, like so. And let's go ahead and just smooth this off here, just at the extreme edge of this station, where it's obviously sunken into the ground almost. And then what we want to do is get a track, and we want to head down this way. We're pretty much going the right direction. We have to tunnel through this bit here, but that's not going to be a problem. And in fact, look at that, we're going to have to, it looks like we may have to tunnel for quite a distance here. I mean, we are limited. That's at the maximum we can possibly set our track elevation, but it is what it is. We soon get over the worst of it, and we're pretty much up to where we need to be here, as we can see. 25 meters, so we're climbing quite a distance, but it's still only a 3% gradient. And yes, right here the terrain is awful, but we should be able to handle that with the terrain modification after the fact. So for now we'll just have to go with it, with a view to sorting it out just that little bit later. Right, so where are we headed now? I tell you what, let's head this way with a view to just hugging into the side of this terrain here to avoid that bridge it was just wanting to construct. We'll then tunnel through here, and then we need to start shedding this elevation that we've had to pick up just to avoid that initial tunnel right off the bat. So something like that, into a tunnel now. And in fact, if we now go down the ways 20 meters, I think we want to be heading down to around about 10 meters or so as a guesstimate for where those the tracks that we're heading into are currently situated. I think it's about 10 or so meters. Another tunnel here is probably unnecessary, and we could probably just do it with a cutting, and it doesn't look too bad at all. So that's 12 meters now. So let's see, and there's the 10. That's what we want to get to. So I think at this point, if we just keep it at this height, we're going to be in a good position to connect in just down here. And this is where we have to make that determination of, do we want to just connect in, or are we going to be better off having it triple tracked, or maybe even quad tracked. I think at this point we will jump in straight to a triple track, sort of like that. I know technically it's only going to be double tracked at this little bit here through the bridge, but eventually we will double track this bridge as well, and that, yeah. So we'll not connect in. This sawmill line will come down on its own dedicated track, and that'll stop it getting in the way of anything else that is heading down here. For instance, the steel train or the returning coal and iron trains. Well, not the iron trains, they go a different way, but the coal trains especially. And then perhaps at this point we could join in and share, although this is the return, isn't it? So, well, that's fine. Or we can just do something very similar for the incoming track. So down here, hopefully this doesn't mess up too much when we cross over. Let's see here. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, well, let's just quickly pause it and let's just rework this a little bit. And what we'll do here is now double track this tunnel, if we can. It's got a bit strange there. Oh no, there it is. Not sure why it's not showing the track text. Oh, it is, you just can't see it very well. So yeah, if we double track this all the way through, and then just quickly remove that little connection point there. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and put a one-way signal there. Is that all connected up, or is it after? Yeah, there's a little break in the track just there, look. Oh no, don't do that. Let's just try that a little bit again without it making too much of a mess. Ah, there's a tiny node just there. That's better. There we go. That's working correctly now. That should all be connected in. Yep, brilliant. And now this should work. Yes, there we go. Look, much better. So this is our incoming planks train, or it will be the incoming planks line. Let's just restart the game now. So let's quad track all the way through here. I think what we'll also do actually is just redo this tunnel as well. So this will be like that, and then as we come out here, this needs to be redone as well, sort of like, where are we, that. Everybody should be happy once again, and they are. Put down a signal just there. And now this line here, which is the returning empty planks line, will quad track down here. Hopefully that's all connected correctly inside the tunnel. Looks like we have. Okay, yep, okay. And then this will come through here. And then that signal might need to move because we're going to cross over here like this. So yeah, that signal does need to move. Get that back and bring you over here nicely. And that does indeed look quite nice. And then this is just a simple case of bringing this all the way back to the sawmill. So the final bit here should be fairly straightforward. You don't want to go that far, do you? There we go. Then we'll do it piecemeal. So all the way through. And let's give it a nice fast connection point there. Right, so the terrain here notwithstanding, that should work quite nicely. We do need to signal it up, of course. But I do like what we've done there. I'm quite pleased with that. Just smooth some of that off there where that middle point is between the tracks. Wonderful. Right, so resume the game. Let's see, signals then. So a signal there, that's fine. So that signal we had to delete here, let's pop it in just there instead. We'll have one there, and then this one can just be just there, and these will just be decently spaced out blocks down here. We're not going to have 1,000,001 trains coming down here, so the blocks don't need to be too close together for this. But something like that will do quite nicely. So let's just block this up, keeping the signals level for this double stretch of track here. Okay, so that's that stretch of track now blocked up in both directions. So now we're coming through here, and that'll protect the crossing point here. So that's all fine. It's not going to block anything in. I don't want to put a signal in the tunnel at this point because they are semaphore signals. But here we can put a couple of blocks like this now. We have one there which we can just push back a little bit. Just make sure we delete the signal and not the track itself. And we could probably get away with another set of signals just prior to the tunnel entry here as well. Like that. And then here, so what we want is a signal just there, perhaps one just there, So these two are going that way, and then a couple here and here, and that should be good. Maybe we'll put... No, we don't need another one just there. But let's put another one... No, in fact that should do. That should work quite nicely. What we will need to do is down here is make sure we have the second platform up and running and activated. So just quickly pause it and just rework this approach into the station here. And we'll have it double tracked with a diamond all the way in. Let's pop our diamond back here, shall we? Like that. With a signal there. And now we should have access to platforms 1 and 2 for this new line. Everybody should be happy. No complaints from anybody so far. So let's get a new line set up. That's running from the Peoria sawmill with a full load, and you can wait as long as you need to actually. You're picking up planks and you're heading all the way down here into the West Jordan machinery factory onto platform number 2 before returning. And here, yep, you're sharing with the steel trains, which is not a problem. But as we get here, we can see they diverge, and yep, they're on their own separate track, which is what we wanted. So we do have some, well, we do have 2 trains sharing here. These are the coal and the steel trains, but the planks trains are completely separate. And as and when we get to the point where we're having machinery outputting from this factory and perhaps coming up here, we can keep them separate as well, or make them share with the sawmill trains, so we're not having 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 services on one stretch of track. It just means we can balance it out a little better. Okay, so for colours we'll go for that. For the line name we will go planks, and then we are Peoria, so P-O-R-I, P-E-O-R, yeah, P-E-O-R, to West Jordan. Fantastic. So at this point then we should be able to purchase a loco to run on this line. We will need to give them a way to get over onto these new lines that we have built, and we can probably do that. Yeah, we'll do it just here. So if we put a slow connection in there, because it's only to allow the trains to access that new set of tracks that we just built. We have the depot here, so they'll be coming up here, then crossing over and heading up to Peoria. That's fine. So let's get these trains constructed. So again, we're sticking with the 442 Atlantics here, and I think we're going to double head this one because they're going not a huge distance, but they're going pretty far. And let's go for a minimum of 200 capacity, maybe even higher, maybe 240. Yeah, that's fine. We'll get 2 of those. We want to make sure we have a caboose on the back. There we go. 33 million to all intents and purposes. So let's buy those and put them on that planks line. So hopefully by now the trucks up here have started to make their first delivery and space themselves out. Well, they are spacing themselves out, as we can see. So yeah, the deliveries are coming in. We have our first truck almost back at the forest. We might need more trucks on this, but as I said, we can deal with that a little bit later once things settle in properly. For the time being, what I do need to do is just smooth off this terrain here, where we did this almighty scar across the landscape to avoid that tunnel. And the reason we wanted to avoid the tunnel is just because we might have multiple platforms accessing this station in the future, and trying to connect in when you have a tunnel can be a little bit tricky. So this just means if we do have to put in second, third and fourth platforms and so on, we can get them branched off without too much trouble. Now how does that look? That looks a lot better. A lot better. So I'm happy with that. We will just run the smoothing tool along the majority of the track here, just to make sure everything looks neat and tidy and doesn't look too ridiculous. The rest of the journey should be pretty much okay. Maybe just along here where this road is we need to do a bit of work, but the train line itself should be fine. The road looks a bit daft, but we're not using the road, so that's not really a concern. Of course, that may be different if it looks ridiculous up close and personal on a cab ride, but we shall see at the end if that's the case. Yes, we want to go down here, and then I think the rest of the way we should be pretty good, because we'd have done any smoothification and terraforming that we needed to do when we built the initial line, so all this should be fine. But just for completion's sake, there we go. Okay, so looks like quite a busy little remote junction, this area now. It's not really a junction as such, but yes, looking pretty good. Quite like the way it looks. And now I believe this is our first bit of quad track that's actually being utilised on the map. So we went from the early game limitation of sticking to a lot of single track to going as high as quad tracks for this little stretch here, but I think it's going to be worthwhile, and it just future-proofs the network for that later expansion should we need it, especially if some of these towns in this area start demanding machines as well. Obviously we know that Carrollton already needs machines, that's why we're doing all of this. We've got Athens as well, but any one of these towns near here could also want machines when they start to expand, and if we have to bring them up to Peoria, Murrieta, well definitely Athens, then we can use this bit of quad track here without causing too many traffic issues for the remaining services. Okay, so you've blocked him in ever so slightly, but that's fine because you won't be waiting there too long. Sure, on your way, and your waiting isn't causing too much of a problem because we have other coal trains in the area. So yep, they've taken that little connection there that we built for them for access purposes, and that's the last time they'll need to use that. Once they're on this line, this becomes irrelevant, but it does mean we can get extra services onto this line if we need to. So things are flowing relatively nicely. Obviously you're having to wait. I don't like the way this little bit of track kinks in here. I think that'd be better if it was straighter. Let's see, can we do something with that? Have it come in looking a little straighter. Let's see, shall we? So let's see what we can do here. Well, I think let's just take that back even further, and let's have you come. Okay, we'll need to remove that signal there. Yeah, let's have this fellow come across here. Now it's not happy with it. Oh, there we go. That'll work. We're not quite at the right angle, of course. Now it's going to kink that way then, isn't it? So we're just going to end up with the same effect overall, but this looks better here. Yeah, that looks a little bit... I don't think fluid is the correct term, but it looks better there. Better, that's a good term. It just looks better. And how do you look? The switches are offset, but that's not a problem. And you look okay. Yeah, we'll go for that. Just looks a little bit more pleasing on the eye. That signal there will need to be replaced. So you're now going to be overhanging the signal, that's not a problem. We can put one just there. And you already have one there. Your back end, again, it might overhang, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And we'll put one there as well. In fact, no, because you might block in that junction there. Okay, so yep, that's looking pretty good. Let's just head back up here. Yes, I do think we're going to need a lot more trucks on this one. We have 30 at the moment. I might go for another 15. So another 50%. So let's do that. There we go. Just to make sure we have a much faster throughput on the logs. The trains are on their way, or at least one train is. We saw it utilising that crossing point, and there she is just there. The second one shouldn't be too far behind. Is it you? Indeed it is. So again, a bit of junction action here, just as this train makes her way onto the tracks. With one of the coal trains just heading into the tunnel, heading back to the colliery. The iron train continued to make us nice money, I imagine. Oh yes, very nice. And you look at that, almost 60 million that year. That was a good year for us. You're still not putting, your output's still not very high, but as I said at the start, as soon as we start getting these machines shipped out, that demand for steel should grow. So we should see faster steel production. So these trains that are bringing down the steel should be coming down with a bit more of a full load on them. What do we see here? 96. See, so we could drop off some of the carriages at this point because they're not being used and they haven't been used yet, but we'd only have to potentially add them back on a little bit later. So yeah, we'll let them run empty with excess carriages for the time being, with a view to it being future proofed once those machines start being produced. Okay, so I think that's a decent place to leave it today. Obviously in the next episode we'll look at tackling the output from the West Jordan Machinery Factory, getting it connected into Carrollton so we can get those machines being produced and consumed. Then we want to turn our attention to the goods because we want to get Carrollton growing as quickly as we can. We have a goods factory here already. We have steel production, so that's 50% of the challenge taken care of. And we need plastic, but we do have a chemical plant here, and as we can see we are quite oil rich in this area. So getting some refined oil into Clearwater, that's not going to be a problem. In fact, we could do that very, very easily. So yes, getting the goods produced shouldn't be too much of a challenge. Getting them into Carrollton should be fairly straightforward as well. Once we've got the two goods coming into Carrollton, I think the best thing to do then is connect it with an express line into Knoxhill. Now that will be a pretty challenging build because we have other tracks in the area that we're going to have to try and navigate nicely. But that means all our networks then are interconnected. At this point they are still two disparate services, which I don't like to do. I like to keep things joined together as one fluid network. Obviously none of this has access to any of this up here at this moment in time. So hopefully we'll get that done when we get Carrollton up and running. But like I said, we want to get those goods and machines being brought in first of all. So this train's almost at the sawmill now. In fact, we have one alongside at the sawmill. So I think what we'll do is, rather than wait for you to get a full load, we'll send you on your way partially loaded. It doesn't matter if you're not going to make us money for a little while, and we'll just enjoy a cab ride on this new service. So let's send you in reverse, hop on board, and yeah, this will do quite nicely for the outro. In fact, before we do get comfortable, let's just make sure we get that date paused. There we go. Much better. We don't want any unlocks in the background. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode and you're continuing to enjoy the series overall. As always, your comments and feedback and suggestions are more than welcome. It might take me a couple of days to get round to responding to them, but I do check them out, and even if I don't respond initially, I do make a note of them. I do pick them up almost as and when they come in, but it sometimes just takes me a little while to get around to actually acknowledging or dealing with them. As always, at this point, I'd just like to say a very special thank you to those of you who have pledged on Patreon. Your support is absolutely fantastic, and it goes without saying that I deeply and truly appreciate it. So thank you very much indeed for those of you on Patreon. But for now, all that remains for me to say is, as always, ladies and gentlemen, take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.